Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and like always, I have put one heck of a show together for you today, and hopefully this will start off your weekend on the right foot, talking about video games, breaking down the biggest news, and in order to do that, I had to put a stout, talented, bunch of community members together so everyone will get good points of view and we won't be accused of being drones agreeing with each other like robots, which of course you get in the comment section. So first of all, I want to start with the introductions, and we'll start with our resident platinum chaser known as BitCloud Gaming. If you're not already subscribed to this man's channel, shame on you. He is definitely a rising star within the content creation universe and someone that I highly respect and enjoy working with each and every week. BitCloud, welcome.
Hey, what's going on? Let's definitely get this show started.
Yes, well, it's I think that's a show that you're definitely going to enjoy because you definitely bring the PlayStation flavor and opinions to each show you're on. So this should be a good one. Next up, making his triumphant return, a person that not only has a powerful voice on numerous shows that he's on, he is someone that has a YouTube channel that has to have more eyes on it because, quite frankly, his videos are awesome. Please welcome back to the show, Slow Mo Backslap.
Yo, what's up, Boom? How's it going? How's it going, panel? What's up, chat? Yo, this is gonna be an interesting show. I think it's gonna be pretty divisive with some of the opinions about some of the stuff that's been going on this week. But I can't wait to get into it, man. I got my iced coffee on deck.
Nice.
I'm ready to go.
Yes, well, I definitely appreciate you being here. This is going to be a very divisive show. I think it's going to be very heavily opinionated, not only on the panel, but the outstanding chat that turns out for these shows each and every week. Next up, another gentleman making his return. You know him as having the raspiest voice and the most honest opinion in the community, and someone that I enjoy working with when he is on any of the shows that I produce weekly. Please welcome back Crispy Bomb.
Hey, Boom. Good morning, everyone. And yeah, it's been a pretty crazy week, and I just can't wait to get into it.
Well, listen, again, thank you so much for being here. We had set this up 2 weeks ago, so it's great to have you back. And coming in the running us, actually watching hour 6 is someone that you know as one of the major voices of the Xbox Factor podcast, someone that was an original member to the Breakfast with Boom, making his return to the show because obviously we were down one person because So Shady got the flu. So he is out taking his place and going to dominate with his incredible opinions. Please welcome back to the show, Zemi Games.
Thank you so much, Boom. You put the Zemi light above New York City, and I don't know how I saw it, but I did, and I'm here, and I can't wait to dive into these amazing topics. You always set up an amazing show, so I'm super excited to be here, man.
Well, thank you so much again for answering the call. It's always great to have you on. And yesterday's show was, if you missed the Xbox Factor podcast with both Zemi, myself, and Hyena Den, it was really a lot of fun. 2+ hours of the best Xbox talk you can find on YouTube. And if you missed it, after this show, go to my YouTube channel and download that show because I think you're really going to dig it. But let's get into the weeds here, so to speak. Now, obviously, I think it's blatantly obvious. I like being a positive gamer. I like being a positive community member. But when there's negativity that you have to discuss, it can be discussed with class and clout and understanding. And that's what we're going to do for topic number 1. And as everyone has been going crazy on social media, Sony and Naughty Dog were slated to attend PAX East 2020, which is happening next weekend, and dazzle their fans with a 1-hour demo of The Last of Us 2 called Patrol. And though unfortunately, Sony fans will once again be shrouded in disappointment. Now, the announcement was made on the official PlayStation blog as an addendum to the story titled PlayStation at PAX East. And obviously, what was supposed to be there was one of their flagship titles in The Last of Us 2, along with the Final Fantasy VII remake and a ton more. Now, here is the official statement regarding the matter. Today, Sony Interactive made the decision to cancel its participation at PAX East in Boston this year due to the increasing concerns related to the coronavirus, or the official name is the COVID-19. We felt that this was the safest option as the situation is changing daily. We are disappointed to cancel our participation in this event. The health and safety of our global workforce is our highest concern. Now, The Last of Us 2 demo at PAX East was set to offer players a full hour patrolling with Ellie and Dinah. The public demo of its length is virtually unheard of in the industry, and fans were incredibly excited about the opportunity to play one of 2020's biggest titles. The demo slots were expected to be incredibly high in volume, but also a hot commodity, leading the charge at this year's PAX East in Boston. Now, I want to say this as a caveat. Before the chat starts going crazy, before I start receiving the hate mail from the a-holes of the internet, I want to state this publicly right now. As a showrunner, as a content creator, as a producer of multiple shows per week, I don't go out of my way to put anybody in a bad light. That goes for Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, or anybody in this community for that matter. I think I'm fair. I think I report on the news. I think that when I do decide to write an original piece of content that's a discussion, it's put out there that this is a conversational podcast, that nothing is ever written in fact unless I have the facts. And as bad as Sony pulling out of this event is for its fans, I do give them a lot of credit for looking out for the well-being of their employees. But we do still have to talk about it. And the reason why it is a topic is because yesterday it was announced that not only are they not attending PAX East 2020, they have recently pulled out of GDC 2020. And the reason why this is going to be a topic is because with only 9 months between today's show and the launch window of the PlayStation 5, gamers across the entire PlayStation nation have been met with silence, confusion, and reports that Sony is struggling with pricing of the PlayStation 5, publicly admitting that their whole scheme is dependent on what Microsoft does. Certainly not the same Sony that dominated this entire generation. And if you add to the botched and embarrassing PlayStation 5 logo snafu that occurred during CES 2020, there is a ton to scratch your head about. So I want to open up with Crispy Bomb, because him and I were talking privately, and he does have a lot to say on the matter. Crispy, obviously we see that Sony is attempting to put the dollars second and their employees first, and there's no denying that's amazing. But them not attending these events because of the fear of the coronavirus isn't about today's story. The story at hand is the disappointment that continues to mount for Sony and its fans regarding almost literally zero information. What are your takes on this?
and being cautious. Let's be honest, that's the best scenario right now. But we've dealt with these type of things before. Let's not deny the fact that the flu. I mean, me and Boom had it. It was pretty incredible. I almost went to the hospital, to be honest with you. So I mean, there's a lot of diseases out there that can put you in the grave, as I like to say. So the thing that about this one is we don't know enough yet. Now they're learning a lot. They are. So let's just hope that science does its thing and they figure it out quickly. You have to realize that China's in a bad situation because of their dense population, and that's why you see a couple articles coming out that at the end of the day, New York City, Los Angeles, all these densely populated areas are already prepared.
Hey, Crispy, let me just stop you.
You're botting pretty good.
You're botting really bad. Why don't you jump out and come back in, and we'll come right back to you.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry about that, dude. Yeah, folks, as he jumps out and comes back into the stream, let me just continue on my opinion on it. Now, obviously, like it was discussed a few seconds ago, it is very disappointing for sure that Sony continues to cancel their appearances in the events. But what's like for instance, if you follow me on Twitter. And I'm very active on Twitter, and I think I'm very fair. I don't jump on bandwagons, and I certainly don't try to poke fun at situations. I am going to say this: I wrote directly to Naughty Dog, and I got a tremendous amount of positive feedback on it, where I actually told them that because of this mounting disappointment, I think it would behoove them as a company to put that 1 hour demo that was planned for the public anyway onto PSN, giving everyone an opportunity to play one of 2020's biggest games. They did not respond to me directly. That's not surprising. But Crispy, are you back, my friend?
I hope I am.
Yes, you sound. Yes, you definitely sound clear. Why don't you continue on with your point?
Okay, so we've dealt with all of these epidemic type things in the past, and I think science is really far ahead. And I think they're already. I've read a few articles saying that they're starting to figure it out and starting to figure out what's the quirks of it, which is a good thing. And I pray for anybody affected by this. This is a big deal. And in the end, we got to commend Sony for doing that. And I just feel like it's really, it was a snap of the fingers. They're not going. We don't know the logistics of anything. We don't know who's got to travel from where. In the end, there's people from all over. The one thing I want to point out is that they've done plenty of announcements or anything through social media, through state of play and other such things. Maybe they need to pull something out here just to to be honest, and like I've always said, I was a huge PlayStation fan years ago. Now I'm a huge Xbox fan. But at the end of the day, I have to think of the PlayStation gamers that may only have a PlayStation, and you haven't really gotten anything lately. All you've gotten is we're not going here, we're not going there. And then, on top of that, now you have a lot of articles coming out questioning if they're even going to be able to launch the console on time, which is very disappointing. I mean, I know Boom would be devastated. I know BitCloud, anybody that's going to buy it has that plan of buying a PlayStation, in holiday 2020 is going to be disappointed.
Yes, for sure.
And that comes down to, from what I've read, most of their or the majority of their manufacturing comes out of China. They actually used to do it all in Japan, and they actually brought it over to China, which happens to be in near or around that area is where they've done majority of their manufacturing lately. So I don't know, the logistics of that either. I'm more or less speculating, but then you go to the point, well, what if they have to push it to 2021? I don't know how that would go over if Xbox releases like normal. So, I mean, it's a lot of speculation. It's something that, we have to take seriously. And, there has been a case in Boston, so we can't say it hasn't been there.
Right.
But I feel like, I would have waited a little longer just to see who else pulled out, or maybe, not been the first one, I guess, because you kind of have, a lot of people thinking that you're just like, you had nothing to show, or, because of the virus, things that you were going to show are been pushed back, and you just said, well, we're not going. And I think that some people are kind of getting a little extreme about it in social media, and they need to pull back. Like these are people's lives.
Yes.
But also, if somebody wants to do a little speculation, that's also not attacking them. That's more or less saying, well, what's really going on here?
Right. No, I mean you bring up a lot of great points, and obviously, again, we have to say it as a caveat because we don't want people getting the wrong idea that this is some sort of a barrage attack against Sony. But we do have to certainly point out that the disappointment in the way that they have handled things since Jim Ryan has taken over is certainly mounting. And, you know, a very good friend of the show, someone that I cannot wait to meet in person, and someone that is going to, someone that I highly respect, Enrique from the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. If you saw yesterday, him and I had a conversation on Twitter about what Microsoft has done as opposed to Sony. And of course, you know, we do politely and publicly disagree on several things, but that's okay. That's perfectly okay. And one of my main points is if you look at what Microsoft has done and what they basically have pulled pages directly out of Sony's playbook, the same way Sony did to Microsoft to start the generation, right? We saw, you know, we don't have to talk about 2013 again, but we know what Sony did, and they never looked back. And Sony right now, I'm not saying they're doomed. I'm not saying they're going to lose the console generation. We all, I think, can probably agree that they're probably going to sell more PlayStations than Xboxes because it is a worldwide brand, and that's reality. But on the same token, we cannot disregard the mounting disappointment from that brand, and this all goes back to when Jim Ryan has been promoted. And again, I don't know Jim Ryan. I mean, we know for a fact that he is one hell of a businessman. We know that he's solely responsible for being ultra aggressive in Europe, where he made the PlayStation brand number one. And I'm not talking about number one by like a few million consoles. I'm talking about stomping out your competition. So he knows what he's doing, but there is a lot of disarray going on at Sony. Now, I want to go to BitCloud, but BitCloud, before I get to you, I just have to thank a very good friend of the show. Scrub Nurse drops an incredibly generous $20 super chat, and he says this is getting I think he meant to say getting shady. Getting shady, yes. If they can't come to PAX East 2020, shouldn't they just put out a video like a Nintendo Direct? Is this the beginning of a new wait till next E3 that Xbox fans have been dealing with this generation? That is a great point, dude. And a lot of people are going to be asking that. So BitCloud, my question to you as our resident Sony professional, right? Who I truly and highly respect your opinion, because I think that even though you prefer Sony, you don't fanboy about it. You speak the truth. And of course, I would imagine that this is going to be one heck of a topic on your show that's happening later this evening. What are your takes on the mounting disappointment that Sony is laying across the doorstep of their fans?
All right. So, like I said numerous times, again, I understand people are very, very eager. Like, that's definitely the point. People are eager for next gen news from PlayStation. But we got to look at it from a realistic standpoint right now. This whole coronavirus thing, it ain't no joke. Like,
it isn't. That's
the
correct.
value of human life right now is very, very important. And the sad part is, and what's really making it sick, is the fact that I see people using that to push an agenda with console wars. You know,
it is ridiculous. I have to admit
that a lot. Now, again, I'm not gonna say the name, but I had to get rid of somebody in your chat. I had to block somebody on my end. I don't want to see his comments. But let me tell you, when the amount of ridiculous comments that I've been seeing, like, okay, Sony can't do this, that, and the third. Sony is scared. Blah blah blah. Look. This whole thing is affecting everything, their production, everything. That's why they're taking their time. They will release news. This is why Jim Ryan said more news will be coming in the coming weeks. You're going to get an update eventually. As far as people saying that Sony needs to hurry up and show the console design, I mean, sure, we don't know what it looks like, right? We're still putting up pictures of dev kits. We're using renders from
I'm going to use a few of them right now, and here's one of my favorites.
We're using that one, right? And that looks like the best representation. Me personally, I think that's the best representation. But again, we're not going to get it just yet because they're getting everything situated. Once everything is situated, you would get your updates. You're going to get everything. The sad part is everybody's acting like, oh, they need to rush to do this, that, and the third. Listen, you're going to get it eventually. They don't need to rush for anything. If you think about it from what we've already known right now, what has Microsoft really shown for Xbox Series X? Only thing we know for a fact is that what it looks like. We know what the control looks like. Do we know anything about the teraflops or GPU? Have they confirmed any of this?
No, nothing has been absolutely confirmed from either.
Exactly. These are all about what? Rumors.
Right.
It's all fueled by rumors. So again, that's all we got right now is that one console. We got to look for one console, and we don't have to look for the other. We do know they're rocking Zen 2 processors, right? Because this is from both sides. They confirm.
Yeah, we both know that they're using the faster SSDs.
Yeah, SSDs.
Right? We know that they're gonna have. We know both of them are gonna have accelerated hardware ray tracing.
There you go. So again, it's like not much. Right now I don't see much to really like go, oh my God, they have to rush. I do think that the situation though is a little. It's more than what we think it is. The fact that they're pulling out of different shows for safety, just for safety. Again, you got to look at it from that. They're being smart about it, until the situation is resolved. I do believe we're going to get state of plays to make up for a lot of this stuff, more than likely. I can see that for sure, but I'm not sure if we're going to get a PS5 reveal. Like a lot of people are saying PS5 reveal could possibly still happen this month. I really doubt it. I don't think a PS5 reveal it's happening this month. More than likely later, maybe March, you'll probably get something for PS5 in terms of news wise from them. But again, I would just stick with what Jim Ryan saying. Just be patient and wait. You're going to get the info eventually. It's just the fact that people are using a deadly virus to push an imaginary console war. You get what I'm saying? That's my frustration.
Well, look, I'm going to say this. First of all, again, don't be that person that is. I mean, listen, we can speculate right now, live on the air and on social media, that what Sony has done is disappointing. Right? We absolutely can say that the amount of news, even before the coronavirus outbreak, the lack of news is disturbing. All right, and the reason why I say that, and of course I agree with everything that you're saying, Big Cloud. I think that you're right on par. I think that that using the potential infection and obviously ultimate death of someone because to power of an embarrassing and ridiculous console war is just silly. It doesn't make any sense.
Like that, it's like, dude, like, do you not
be
better?
Be better, like Spider-Man says. Be better,
or be greater at this point. It's like
greater.
Like seriously, like lives are at stake right now, and they're being smart about it. They don't want to spread this outbreak anywhere. And I get it. I understand.
I will say this though. I will say this. Even though I agree 1000% with you, and lives matter, folks. Plastic is just plastic. Lives matter. Understand that. There is they as a company do have a very blatant responsibility to keep their fan base in the know. And right now, that fan base is starving for information. And I think that as a fan, someone that has already locked down the money for that console, who's paying for it, the minute the pre-order goes up, I'm paying for it in full, and I'm going to reserve every game that I can get. I do say that they have a responsibility to at least give their fans something. I'm not saying that they should put together some sort of a BS reveal package and just drop it online, but they need to get out in front of this and say, folks, listen, we understand that you're disappointed, you're frustrated. We on this date, we're going to put out a state of play. Get the date out there. Get people looking forward to their favorite brand. That's something that they have not done, and sitting on their hands is only going to stoke the fires. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and like I said back where with the whole social media aspect, right? That's really what they're relying heavily on as of late is the power of social media and how they're pushing their tweets and everything. Again, if you go back to the whole logo thing, even though it was underwhelming for a lot of people, they still did what they basically accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. They got PS5 trending. You know what I'm saying? It was already trending everywhere. People know PS5 is coming. The thing is, we just don't have an actual show date. We don't have a console reveal date. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to get that eventually. And I definitely agree that we are definitely not in the know. We don't know much else aside from, okay, it will happen eventually, right? We don't know much. But and that's where I'm kind of sitting back like, okay, yeah, we don't know much right now, but we're going to get more details in a few more weeks. Definitely. Just give it a few more weeks. Give it a few more weeks.
I mean, you're right. I mean, to suggest that they're not going to show anything is I think foolhardy. But at the same time, I think they kind of, again, not to repeat myself, but I think they owe their fans something.
Oh, yeah,
I know a good friend of the show, which we were just talking about him. Hope his ears weren't burning. Enrique from the Basement Radio Arcade podcast drops a $2 super chat. And he says Sony just dropped a video for a new game for PAX, and I haven't seen that yet, so I'm going to look that up as we get to the next panel member.
Yeah, but to finish that off, right? Again, I know PS5. We'll get more in the coming weeks, but you got to also look at PS4 as well, right? They got so much content for PS4 that they have to handle as well to do that transition to 5. You get what I'm going with this? Because remember, Last of Us 2 is coming, even though it's not going to be at PAX, which a lot of people were looking forward to. They moved it from PAX. You still got Ghost of Tsushima. They just released Dreams, which is doing well, and they're already talking about Dreams coming to PlayStation 5. Yeah. So again, it's like they got so much content already. Neo 2 is going to drop next month. Yeah. So there's just too much content. And again, I get it that you want to be in the know, but the thing is they have a lot of stuff they got to manage aside from the whole outbreak.
I mean, listen, again, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it moving forward. Obviously, one of their main points for pulling out of E3 was that they were going to be attending hundreds, that's their words, not mine, hundreds of events throughout the year, and so far they've canceled their appearance in 2 of the bigger ones. Now, what those hundreds of events are?
We still got Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah, you have quite a few other ones. Yeah, definitely.
Paris Games Week.
Yes, yeah. I mean, again, if they decide to do their own event, which we're assuming they're going to, I don't know who's to say that they're going to not bring back PSX in December.
PSX definitely has got to be bigger,
and that makes sense to do. That definitely makes sense. But again, once again, dude, really great points. Slow-mo, I want to go to you next on this because obviously we're talking about Sony and the once in your face Sony has been basically wiped away, at least in my opinion, if you harken back for the last couple of months. And sure, there's zero doubt that the PlayStation 4 will have a great year. I mean, obviously they're going to have The Last of Us 2. They're going to have Ghost of Tsushima. They're going to have Final Fantasy 7 for a year exclusive. Neo 2 is coming. They have great games and they have a very strong first-party exclusive lineup. But but right now, the PS5 plans that everyone is looking for to getting any information, and when you hear that Sony's going to be attending these big events, you would expect as a fan that they're going to do something. And with every event that they pull out from, and again, touting that you have to respect the fact that they're looking out for their employees. That's no denying that. But that still does not take away from the fact that people are disappointed. What are your personal thoughts on Sony continuing to, in my opinion, disappoint fans?
I think, excuse me. I think some of the, I think some of the disappointment is a little overstated. I think some of it's coming from kind of like the other side as well. So I'll clarify that by saying, if you really look at what PAX East what they were going to do for PAX East and GDC. Were we really going to get any PS5 news?
Well, I mean, it's certainly a valid question. And then more than likely, no, but it's a GDC, maybe.
Yeah, but see, GDC also is more than just like it's a game developers conference.
Yes,
like if you look at what GDC provides, I mean they have big like teaching sessions where people would teach one another how to develop AAA games, how to develop programming and design, how to market your game. Like it's way more than just, hey, look what we're doing. And so like there's no actual evidence that Sony was going to show anything PS5 related at GDC. They could have been there to have like maybe like Corey Balrog or someone from First Party to talk about, AAA games or something like that. We don't really know. But I would say more likely than not, they weren't going to reveal PS5 at GDC without doing their own reveal event first. So PAX East, we already knew what they were going to do. They paid the money to go to PAX East. They already told us everything that was going to be there. They were going to show games that they had marketing for, that they were doing the marketing on, third-party games, as well as The Last of Us 2. They could still do that. They could, whatever trailer they would have had for The Last of Us 2, they could have had that. They could do that on their social media. They could do that on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, or on Twitter. It didn't, like, only people who are really missing out are the people who were going to PAX. And I've seen some things where people are like, well, I mean, it's in Boston, this isn't China. And I'm like, well, look, these people are coming from all over the world to go to PAX East. Some of them are coming from China, and they're still going to PAX East. The developer team, MiHoYoHo, they're a Chinese developer. They are making Genshin Impact on the PS4 and PC. That they're going to be at PAX East. They said, they confirmed they're still going. They're from China. So, like, for anyone saying, "Oh, I mean, it's in Boston. There's only one confirmed case in Boston. What's the big deal?" The big deal is that you're meeting.
Well, you got to remember. I don't know if anyone's ever attended PAX East. It's a very close. It's a great event. Great fan event.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's packed with a lot of people, and you are up close and personal with folks that could be coughing, that could be sick. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So like, this isn't like them not going there. This is really all fueled by the fact that they're not going to E3. Because if they were still going to E3 and they said, yeah, we're not going to PAX East, we're not going to GDC, and it's due to the coronavirus and the state of things.
No, that's great point.
No one would be raising an eyebrow. No one would be like, oh, why are you doing this? There's something else going on here. No one would say that because they're still going to E3, but because they're not going to E3, which is for separate reasons, this is where that kind of fuels this idea. I don't think it's that big a deal. I don't think it's changed anything in regards to their plans for the PS5. And if anything, in regards to, I think it was Crispy that was talking about whether this could turn into a delay of the PS5. I think a delay is less likely. What is more likely to happen are shortages.
Yes.
I think you're going to have an issue where they're going to do everything they can to not delay their launch, because that completely changes so many different plans that they have to.
It certainly does.
Yeah, the marketing, the build up to it, all that stuff has to change. But if you only just have shortages, the only thing that you're really worrying about is being able to get as many units out as possible. AMD, who's doing the APU chipset for both Microsoft and Sony, they were already kind of behind the 8 ball when it came to delivering on their wafers for their various clients at that 7-nanometer chip already this year. Because Samsung, who is a much bigger customer for them than Sony and Microsoft, considering that cell phones sell way more than consoles and they cost more, so Samsung's probably paying them more. They are probably going to be a higher priority for AMD, and it's definitely going to be a different kind of chip, but it's still the same. It's still the same kind of chip, but definitely a different chip than what Sony and Microsoft are going to have. So like that kind of plays into the whole things. What I really think will probably happen is if they feel like their factories, the companies in the factories in China that will be assembling their systems, if they can't get their, like, if they're still on lockdown in those cities, they're probably going to end up shifting their contracts to other countries like India, Mexico, so that they can be able to get some of these systems made, which means it's still like you're still going to get your console later this year. It's just it may be, you may be seeing a
pre-order it immediately and pay that bitch off.
Yeah, you better pre-order that thing. Feel like as soon as it goes up, you should be on whatever you're like, GameStop, Best Buy.
Well, we have our inside
whatever.
Man for that. So you and I and many people in the community are going to be okay because Gaming Forte has the bat phone ready at the.
yeah. Just hit Forte. Yeah, he gonna hook you up. But I mean, like they've already, like, as we were doing the show, PlayStation released a trailer for a game that was going to be at PAX.
Right.
A game called Other Side. It's a tactical RPG coming out this summer. Like in the age of social media, you have a method of being able to deliver the same information to people without actually having to go to a city to do it, which is also the reason why I've always been like, E3 is kind of archaic. And I know some people who are going to E3 are like, hey, don't say that. I love the experience. It's like, it's still a great experience. Go do it. But especially for these big platform holders, Microsoft don't need to do that. I've been saying it for years. Like, for at least the past 2 years, that ever since they came out with Inside Xbox, I'm like, look, you have a method to deliver your information to your gamers without having to wait until E3. You don't have to pull all your resources and, hey, look, we're not going to reveal Fable yet. We're going to wait to E3 for that. For what? Like, wait to E3 where your game is going to have to compete against all these other games that are revealing at E3, and then you lose a lot of attention. Why don't you do it on a random Inside Xbox on a March somewhere, and then your game can be talked about for the rest of the week? It gets more exposure for it. And so, like, this isn't necessary to be at these places to do these things. Sony can do it whenever they are comfortable doing it, and especially when it comes to something going on like the coronavirus, where it's dying. I mean, the doctor that actually in China that blew the whistle on this, he's dead too. Like, this is a serious deal. I know some people are like, oh, like there are diseases, out here all the time. I'm like, but it's not.
It is definitely an epidemic. There's no downplaying the severity of this virus.
Exactly.
Let's get that straight right now.
Yeah. Yes. But I mean, that's all I'm saying. Like, this isn't. No, I know the disappointment is coming from the fact that they're not going to E3, and so now when they're not going to these two events as well, people feel like you're not going to do anything. But let's think about this critically for a moment. Who would release a console and then not go to anything for the full year?
No, I mean, what you're saying makes sense. It does make sense.
Doesn't make, like, none of us are business executives. Even we wouldn't do that. Like, that doesn't make sense. And Jim Ryan, even though he said some really stupid stuff in the past, he has been running PlayStation in Europe. He has been kicking the ass of all of his competition in Europe. He's not a dumb businessman. So, like, I think they got this well in hand. I don't think it's a big deal.
All right.
Exactly. I mean, it goes back to what he said. Expect more in the coming months at CES. It goes right back to that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be interesting, but I'm just as a PlayStation fan, one that proudly supports the console, I am going to say that I would like some sort of information. But real quick, I want to get to Zemi Games because Zemi has a lot to say on this, but I want to just catch up on some of the super chats. First of all, JD Gamer, hey dude, thank you so much for being here. He drops a $5 super chat, and he says, PlayStation pulling out of GDC has little to do with the safety and a lot to do with Sony not wanting to reveal specifics about the PlayStation 5, and GDC would have produced leaks. And that's a really great point. LMNOPO, hey dude, thank you again for being here. He drops a very generous $5 super chat and says this: what I don't understand is why events like PAX don't get rescheduled if the fear of outbreak was so serious. Business still has to continue somehow. And Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, a very good friend Enrique, drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, I understand that people are anxiously awaiting news on the PlayStation 5. But let's not generalize that fans are disappointed, as we have no way to accurately gauge disappointment without using a metric. PC Master Race for the win. Well, I mean, look, again, this is it says here, it says, boom, your YouTube is demonetizing for saying corona. You know, it's funny. I actually had to put in a request yesterday. I think maybe that could be it. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, they're actually censoring people for saying it. Like,
it's unbelievable. And he drops an additional $2 from just says BitCloud had hair like Jim Ryan.
Thanks, Enrique. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, that's funny. But you know, Zemi Games, look, let me just say this. Zemi, this is obviously not the biggest topic of today's show. We're here to talk about games, and we're going to get right to it in a second. Though we still have to say that, again, that sounds like a broken record. There is a mounting disappointment raging on within the PlayStation community. And like I said, if you want to defend Sony pulling out for safety reasons and it makes sense, I'm not going to argue with you. But as a fan of the brand, you have to admit that you want more information, and they're just not providing it. My question to you, Zemi Games, is what is your personal opinion on the fact that we know for a fact that PAX East, why Sony pulled out, but GDC, man, that's a hard one. That's a tough one. When we could, again, yes, it is for the game developers, and there's a lot of tutelage going on and learning there. But at the same time, in the past, GDC has produced some big video game information, and Sony has now removed themselves from the conversation. What are your thoughts on this, dude?
Yeah, so to be honest, I really find it hard not to say that, to me, it seems like a very convenient excuse for Sony to try to save money, cut costs, with bringing down the price of the PS5, or just maybe their marketing later on in the year. Or just in general, I think it is just an excuse for Sony not to show up so they don't have to spend the revenue at that event. We do know that it does cost these companies quite a bit of money to go to E3 or to go to PAX or to go to any of these big conventions. Like, I would hate to imagine, the amount of money it costs to Xbox to produce FanFest, right? So we do know that this does cost these companies a lot of money, and I think that they are, in a way, using the coronavirus, the one outbreak in Boston, and, of course, all the people that will be coming from China to attend that event from different development teams, I think that they're using that as an excuse. And a big reason I think this is because you look at all the things that PlayStation has done, this year and even last year, from now starting to release their games on PC. I mean, that's definitely going, like their older IPs, like their first party IPs on PC on the Epic Store, that's going to generate them quite a bit of money, right? And previously, Sony wouldn't have even ever thought about doing that. Then you have to look at them letting go of a ton of employees, and then now you have to look at them not attending a crap ton of events last year. And I don't think that they've really attended one event this year, right? So, at the end of the day, I think it all kind of drives down to money, and that's not to try to downplay the coronavirus. Of course, it is a serious virus. It is killing people. There is not a vaccine for it. There's not a cure for it. So it is a serious thing. But with that being said, of course, developers are going to be coming to China, to Boston, right? Of course, that's going to happen. But all of the major locations in China where there are huge outbreaks are banned from air travel to the United States, right? So that cuts off a huge portion of risk right there. And then, of course, there is an outbreak in Boston, but there's also an outbreak in LA, where Santa Monica is located near, and Naughty Dog is at right now, right? So I don't really understand why they can't do this event. I mean, of course, they want to protect their employees, but they can ensure that their employees' safety is still met while also attending this event by wearing face masks and, instructing their employees on making sure to wash their hands. If they're afraid of hopping on an airplane, they could rent a private jet, whatever. But they really do need to start attending these events, because it is it is hurting them severely on multiple fronts. I mean, I'm sure are a lot of PlayStation fans that feel very much abandoned by the brand right now, because there is no information out there being given to being given to anyone. We don't know what the PlayStation is going to look like. We have no idea the power of the console. We don't know what the price is going to be, and all of this news that's coming out is extremely, extremely concerning for community. For the community. Is it going to be $450? Is it going to be $500? Are there going to be major cuts? Is the PlayStation going to be put back? We don't know any of this. And so for them to go to these events is very, very important. And, just mind you, they were set to, have an hour-long demo, right? That's now, completely got canceled. That definitely drives down and I would imagine is very depressing for a lot of people out there in the community that wanted to go and attend that. So it's very crucial that they go to these events. And I understand the coronavirus is a serious thing. I really do. But at the end of the day, you can't let this virus impact every single thing in your life. You know what I mean? If you're a barber working in LA and a Chinese person walks in and, you can, he's like a business executive that came from China, you can kind of tell you're not going to refuse to cut his hair. It's not, it's not really the practical thing to do, because you still have to earn money. You still have a job. Right. And so to use the coronavirus as an excuse, I think is just a convenient excuse for them to try to save money. And I definitely think that there's safe ways to ensure their employees' safeties while they go there. That's why all of these other companies are going. It's because it's important and they do care about their employee safety. And I'm sure they are doing measures, to make sure that their employees are safe at that event.
Well, okay, Zimmy, I do have
I need to add on to that too. I need to talk.
Yeah, I do have to disagree with it, because I understand you're saying that you understand what they're taking precautions for safety, but then at the same time, like when you said they should go, but then you start talking about PS5 stuff, we weren't going to hear PS5 stuff at PAX East anyway.
No, but we will at several events in the future. If
they could be going to several events in the future beyond GDC. We don't know that, but again, this is like, because they had paid.
I was more of using that as an example as to how the community probably feels right now, not knowing anything going in. Into this new console generation at this point in the year is more or less. I wasn't implying that we were going to hear about the PlayStation 5 and get all the details.
They never gave any indication PS5 is going to be at PAX to begin with. The highlight of PAX was The Last of Us 2 hour-long demo.
Yeah. They could still do that, like the same way they did with Days Gone. They did the hour-long demo of Days Gone that they released through, what was it, IGN, I think?
Yep.
But they're not going to have the community members from Naughty Dog there to meet with PlayStation fans, to talk with them, to shake their hands, to answer their questions.
That's what PSX events are for. You meet the devs and all that junk.
Yeah, but again, to be fair, they've canceled the last two PSX events. You know what I'm saying? 2018, 2019, they dropped, and you know what? To be fair, we do have to look back at their pattern. Sony themselves has skipped out. I mean, I don't have the list in front of me. Someone wrote it on Twitter, and it was amazing. I mean, they have missed some major events going as far back as PSX 2018. From that December on, it has been Sony has been 90Z. And if you don't know what that's police jargon for being gone off of the scene. And yes, are they selling consoles? Yes. Are they the market leader currently? Yes. Do they have great first-party games? Yes. But all of that information does not excuse them from letting their fans know some information. And having to hear from a report about how they're struggling with the price only confirms the frustration from the community.
Yeah, you were going to get information at PAX. You were going to get games. Obviously, you were going to get that. But here's the thing: as far as them quote unquote leaving to save money for PS5, Sony doesn't pay the day of the show; they pay in advance. They lost.
Yeah, real quick, let me just, I
every
wanted to
show.
add to what you're saying because Enrique drops an additional $5 super chat. Thanks for the generosity, dude. He says Greg Miller has confirmed that Sony had already paid for the
Right.
floor
Yeah,
space
they
at
pay in
PAX
full.
East prior to canceling. That money apparently is non-refundable.
Right.
Exactly.
So
They were going to be
they
there.
lost
The
their
thing is,
money.
the concerns came up.
Yeah, it wasn't a money concern at all. They'd already put their money in, and they're not getting that money back. I mean, I'm pretty sure they understood that as well. That pulling out at this point, because if you're the people who run PAX, you're like, hey, we planned on you being here. We're still going to be here, and also there's mitigating risk to that. Like I brought up the developer Miho Yoho, that's from China, and they could have. I'm pretty sure they know coming from China and being Chinese, when they show up there, people are going to be looking at them like, I mean, I was going to come talk to you, but now I don't know, like, but this is their only game. This is all like they've been banking on being there and showing their game and developing more goodwill and more hype for it for months. That's all they have. There is a higher risk of not going than to go, whereas Sony, you're a big first party platform. You have options. Not going there isn't going to tank your entire platform because you have more than just one game to rely on, and you have other methods of showing your things. You could hold your own events. You have state of plays and stuff like that, where you can find different methods to deliver the same information. I mean, as I said before, a trailer for a game that they were going to show at PAX has been released on Twitter just this morning. Like, you should probably expect more of that as a method of getting those games out to people. Yeah, the people who are going to go to PAX aren't going to be able to touch those games, aren't going to be able to play the Last of Us 2 demo. But hey, look, the game come out in 2 or 3 months.
I am going to say this though. I would like Sony to do something, and I said this in the opening before we really got into the nitty gritty or in the weeds of this particular topic, was that I think that as an olive branch offering, as a way to apologize for them just completely, not doing what we know Sony is known for doing, and that is letting their being in your face and letting their fans know about the information regarding the PlayStation brand. They need to. I'm not asking them. I'm telling them they need to drop that 1 hour demo onto PSN to give their player base something to get excited about. And I can guarantee you drop that 1 hour demo onto PSN, no one is going to even be talking about the cancellations of this, that, and the third. I'll end it with that.
Hey, look, I agree with you on that. Drop that demo. Put that demo out there, but put that on PSN.
Yes,
you're
absolutely.
Get a lot of people happy. Like,
yes.
Again,
I'm one of them.
Shoot,
pull a deal with Capcom, have Resident Evil 3. There you go.
There you go. That's a win-win for everybody, especially for a bit cloud of myself.
Exactly. I'm watching with smiles.
Look, all I'm going to say is this. Everyone had incredible opinions and points, and we are 52 minutes into the show. I want to move on to the next topic because I kind of figured this was going to be a big one. So I want to thank you guys for actually just coming on and completely knocking it out of the park. The chat, we're almost at 270 people watching live. If you are enjoying today's conversation, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed to Double Barrel Gaming, if you again are enjoying the banter, if you're enjoying the 3 live shows I put on weekly, consider subscribing to the channel. It definitely certainly helps me with that very crazy YouTube algorithm that no one seems to really understand, but it does. Likes and subs do help the channel grow. So if you are enjoying it, consider hitting that like button and of course subscribing. And I want to move on to the next topic because quite frankly, this is one that no one is talking about. And the reason why I'm excited to talk about it very simply is because we have one of the most knowledgeable gamers in this community when it comes to Bioware, and of course, slow-mo backslap. Now, in a recent interview, ex-Bioware writer Drew Karpyshyn let the cat out of the bag on why the Bioware magic has been gone in the last few big releases that include Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem. Now, Drew, as we know, you may or may not know, is one of the best writers in the industry right now and has spent a ton of fruitful years at BioWare, helping the studio write some truly incredible stories, from the likes of Baldur's Gate 2 to Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 to Jade Empire and Mass Effect 1 and 2. Now, Drew worked on some of BioWare's best games, and in 2018, he ended his second spell at the studio and left. Anthem being the last game he worked on. Now, recently, he announced that he had joined a new studio, Archetype Entertainment, an international studio of Wizards of the Coast, headed up by former BioWare staff James Olin and Chad Robertson. And in this update, he also had a few things to say about the former studio, and this is where this story really gets good. I'm proud to announce that I'm the lead writer for Archetype Entertainment. Founded by James Olin, the creative genius behind BioWare's hits like Baldur's Gate, KOTOR, and Dragon Age, Archetype is a new video game studio under the under the banner of Wizards of the Coast umbrella. And I haven't been this excited to work on a project in a very long time. Now, he says this: I've been in the video game industry for 20 years now. When I started at BioWare, everything was fresh and exciting. It was a dream job. Talented people working together to create epic games like Baldur's Gate, KOTOR, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age. But as we grew and became more successful, things changed. We became more corporate. We were less able to make what we loved, and the teams were pushed to create games based on market research rather than our creative instincts and passions. My dream job became just a job, and I lost all of the enthusiasm and excitements I once had. But with Archetype, my passion has been rekindled. I feel right now that in the studio, it reminds me of the early days at BioWare. I can feel the magic in the air. And even though I can't get too deep into specifics on what we're working on yet, we already generated plenty of excitement in the industry. Now, I know I have big shoes to fill, he added, but with BioWare, I was part of a legacy that will endure forever. We created some of the most beloved CRPGs of the past 2 decades, but I truly believe at Archetype, we have the talent and now the opportunity to do something just as amazing. Now, Slow-Mo, being a huge proponent and a fan of BioWare, you yourself have publicly not only talked about the disappointment at BioWare, but the loss of big-time staff members. As a matter of fact, you just did a video on your awesome YouTube channel. Do me a favor, tell people about that, but more importantly, break down what the hell is going on at BioWare.
All right, cool. Yeah. So thanks for plugging my video. I dropped it last week. It's about Archetype Entertainment, the new development studio that's being ran by Chad Robertson and James Olin. And they and as you said, they just brought in Drew Karpyshyn, but the rest of that team, it's about a dozen of them so far. The rest of that team are very, very talented developers that at some point they used to work at BioWare. Some of them have also worked at Naughty Dog before. Some of them have. I mean, when you get into like their backgrounds, they've worked in some pretty impressive stuff, like the guys who've done the cutscenes for the Uncharted series, guys who did the character designs on Anthem. Like, no one said like the javelins in Anthem look terrible. They were just like, the game sucks. You know, there's other reasons why they didn't like the game, but like these guys were the guys that really did the very, like, there's one guy who was the combat director for Mass Effect Andromeda. Mass Effect Andromeda actually has the best combat in the
I would agree with you there. Their combat was fantastic in that game.
Fantastic combat. It's just that everything else about Andromeda is subpar compared to the actual trilogy. Now, to give to Drew Karpish and Drew, as you know, that like the games that he's worked on, I believe Knights of the Old Republic is the best story in any Star Wars story ever. That's just my opinion. But he created the character Revan. He was the lead writer for the first Knights of the Old Republic and helped Obsidian with the story for the second one. He was the lead writer for Jade Empire. He is the guy who created the lore for the Mass Effect universe, as well as wrote almost all the novels that came out that kind of supplemented all that story, and was the lead writer for Mass Effect 1, 2, and the majority of 3, although 3 is uncredited to him because he quit because they were changing his ending. Which
yes, I remember that. Yes.
And if you look at the ending that everyone hated, you kind of wonder why, like, man, they should have just let Drew do his thing. And so that kind of gets to his point about how he noticed that Bioware had been changing. And I mean, we can get into the weeds about how Bioware started changing once EA took over, but that would be a whole different topic on how EA.
That would take up another hour of the show.
Right. But, like, I want to point out one thing in particular that he said. He talked about how they started making decisions based on market research,
trends and stuff. Yes,
yeah, and trends, and it's just like that hinders creativity.
Absolutely.
When you're trying to do new things, like BioWare's games became really popular because they were able to take that notion of CRPGs where you have choice and different narrative paths, and then put it in a packaging that was way more appealing than what you would see in that isometric top-down view. Plus, the writing was awesome, and the choices were really great and engaging. That's something new. If you would base everything off of market research, then that decision to do that would not have been made because you would have no market research or statistics to say that it would be a good idea. So, like, it really hindered their creativity. And of course, Drew, he left twice. It's just, you see this with so many of the Bioware developers. They feel like they can't do what they wanted. They can't spread their wings. And that's why I'm so excited about what Archetype has in store. They already kind of dropped hints that their first debut game is going to be a sci-fi RPG. And you look at the kind of the people who are there, and it's difficult to not say that they're going to have like a spiritual successor to Mass Effect somehow.
Well,
right?
you know what excites me? When you look at a team like the all of the ex-Rare employees that made Yooka-Laylee. Now, Yooka-Laylee, the first one, is an outstanding epic adventure that is a complete love letter to Banjo-Kazooie. The second one they released late, I believe it was late 2019, the side scroller, is just as amazing. So when you get a team of passionate designers, developers, and creators together to want to put forth what they love, that's what you get. So what Archetype is going to be doing in this so-called quote unquote spiritual successor, I'm very excited.
Yeah. Now, although it's so far out, like they're still building their
it's
team.
Probably 3 years out.
3 years at the minimum, I'll say. But I'm excited for it because this is what I've been wanting from BioWare. I'm not going to completely just trash BioWare. They still got some good people. They're like Mark Dara, who is heading up, the lead director heading up Dragon Age 4. Yes. Mark Dara he's the guy, the only reason why Anthem was ever able to get out. He was moved from Dragon Age to the Anthem team to get the game ready to be shipped, even though he was put in a really impossible position. But Mark Dara has worked on all the other Dragon Age games, and this is his time to shine as the lead creative director. Previously, it was Mike Laidlaw, who just left Ubisoft like a month ago or so. But they still have some people there that can actually do good work. It's just with the way everything is being headed up, and Casey Hudson's in charge, but how much of it is this is really Casey Hudson's show and not
exactly
someone else's show? Like, can they finally stop using Frostbite? Hey, what's up, iDizzy? I had to shout out iDizzy because he's the only Frostbite engine stand that exists out there. Frostbite engine's awful. Every single person who's ever worked with it says it sucks. It's trash. It's only good for Battlefield, and that's it. And they have been forced to use that, unlike Respawn, who can use whatever they want. They have their own proprietary engine for Apex Legends and Titanfall. They use Unreal for Fallen Order. Like, give BioWare that same creative freedom. Let them do whatever they want as well. But we'll see what happens. But regardless, I want Archetype Entertainment to be the new BioWare, like the new BioWare that takes what they did and then expounds upon it. Expand, innovates off of it, and hopefully that happens.
Well, I mean, when you have that kind of team, a lot of ex-BioWare, almost the entire staff is from what we've heard, is all worked at BioWare at some form or fashion. You get all those folks together, there's a good shot that we're going to get something special. Again, nothing is guaranteed in life, especially in development. But JD Gamer actually brings up a fantastic point. And again, this is a little early to talk about, but hey, you never know. He drops a $5 super chat. Thank you for the generosity, my friend. He says, has anyone paid attention to the fact that Archetype Studios is located in Seattle, Washington? What if what they're making looks really good? And who's to say that they may end up being an Xbox game studio developer? Look, I got news for you. If they make anything that looks and plays as good as Mass Effect 2 and has lore and characters that you can really get behind, I would love to see something like a smaller team like that. Because again, you have to look at what Microsoft is offering as a giant publisher, right? They're telling their teams, listen, make what you want. If it's a passion project, go crazy and let the game come out when it's ready. They're not pushing the envelope. They're not forcing people to do things. So again, this is completely hypothetical at this point, but a smaller company with passion to design something original like what they're currently working on, from what we've heard, it seems to be, right up Microsoft and Phil Spencer's alley.
But here's the one caveat I would have to that, Boom, is that they have Obsidian now, who is
that is true though. You are right.
Who is like Archetype, but they have like 200 developers, and they have a lot more chemistry as a studio, well established, working on like 3 different games. They already kind of fit that niche a little bit.
And they're not an independent studio. They are owned by Wizards of the Coast, and that's why they're located in Seattle, is because Wizards of the Coast is like located, I think, in like a city right next to them.
Right. I was going to get to that too. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast do own that studio, so it's probably, and they do probably have the creative freedom that we want them to have, which is, as far as I'm concerned, like they already see that game is going to be a multi-plat. That's fine with me. All I care about is that.
Listen, I'm not going to complain.
All I care about is that they are able to spread their wings, make the game that they intended on making, and just and give it to me as quickly as possible.
No. Listen, I absolutely agree. Zemi, you jumped in. It's funny you did, because I want to go to you. We know that you are a huge BioWare fan. We know that you're a huge Mass Effect fan. But the more I hear about the current BioWare, the more disappointed and heartbroken I am, simply because of what they've done in the past. They have not been able to replicate that level of excitement and craft the quality that we know that they are capable of doing. And obviously, they were one of the best RPG makers in the gaming industry. And with all the recent revealed information, it's easy to understand their fall from grace. Seeing this is obviously very and truly disappointing. But what are your takes on not only Archetype and the potential for a spiritual successor to Mass Effect with all of those ex-BioWare employees, but the current situation at BioWare. Can they stop the bleeding?
Yeah, I mean they can. I mean with their writer Drew Karpyshyn like leaving, I mean like it definitely hurts them. I mean because having that amazing talented writer who created the entire lore of the Mass Effect universe is absolutely a heavy blow. I mean because with BioWare's games, are they like for me personally, I think that they are more story reliant than gameplay reliant. And I'm not saying that in the sense that I think that they're that gameplay doesn't matter. Of course it does. I'm not saying that like graphics don't matter, sound doesn't matter, music doesn't matter, but like really and truly the thing that got me addicted to Mass Effect and to BioWare or into Dragon Age was the really strong narrative and the strong story, and what carries a story in a game and what carries the narrative is good writing. And I mean, of course, you can make a game that has storytelling that's not relying on writing, for instance, like environmental storytelling. But with most massive RPGs, they opt for dialogue, and for that you need really talented individuals that know how to do their craft, and they know how to do it amazingly and exceptionally well. And so for them to lose him is a huge blow. But that doesn't mean that BioWare cannot bounce back from this. It definitely makes it more difficult. But nonetheless, I'm extremely excited to see the next Mass Effect and the next Dragon Age game, and I'm going to buy them day one because I'm a huge fan of those games. And I understand that Mass Effect Andromeda had its problems. But even still, even in its buggy mess, I thoroughly enjoyed the game, and I took off a week from work and I just played all the way through it, 100% of the game. And I understand that BioWare does have their problems, and a lot of their problems are stemmed into as Drew said in that article, the lack of creativity. We've seen, and this isn't just BioWare, this is other, developers as well, as big businesses, start understanding how much money they can make off of the video game industry. They're constantly looking for new ways to increase their revenue. And most of these ways that they use to increase their revenues, stifle the ability and the freedom that these developers have to be creative. And creativity is the only reason why these games, became so popular and so massive and so enjoyed by, fans all over the world, and, in the first place. And I mean, that's a huge, issue. So, I mean, ultimately, what BioWare needs to become successful and to bounce back from this is less involvement from their publisher, more freedom for them to make the games that they want to make. These developers, I would say most of these developers aren't necessarily, they didn't choose to become video game developers because they're going to make a massive amount of money, right? They chose to become video game developers because they're creative and they love gaming, and they want to, make, an amazing world that they've only dreamed of, So, I mean, for BioWare to bounce back, they definitely need to, give their developer, they definitely need their publisher to give them more room to grow and expand and come up with new innovative ways to make these games even better than they were before.
Yo, Zimmy, real quick, do you think EA is giving them that now, considering what Respawn has achieved?
I don't know.
Great point.
I don't know, but I hope so. I really hope so. I think I really hope that Respawn kind of opened up EA's eyes, and they really realized what a company is going to be able to do if they're not constantly being controlled. You know what I mean?
Micromanaged, yeah.
And if they're given the freedom to use the freaking engine that they want to use, right? I mean, there's no reason why Frostbite should be used for everything. I mean, it works fantastically for Battlefield, and it works decent enough for Star Wars Battlefront, right? But it shouldn't be used for an open world RPG. But so I definitely hope to see BioWare bounce back, and if they don't, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a long time, and so we even get like a hint that EA might decide to close the studio if that dark day ever came. But if they ever did decide to do that, I would really, really hope that instead of closing down the studio and sitting on the IPs, that they would try to sell it to another company. Maybe, for instance, Xbox. That would be freaking amazing. I don't know if Xbox would be interested in purchasing.
Oh, I'm sure that they would. One of the biggest mistakes of early Xbox they did is not buy Bioware before EA did.
Yeah. But I mean, but then like so many companies, IPs are the most valuable commodity when it comes to a company. Like if you don't have any IPs, then purchasing your developer. This is why really feel like no one came and rescued Telltale before they went bankrupt. Because Telltale, all they did was use other people's IP to make their games.
Right.
They didn't have anything. They had nothing original. Like and I think about all the other IPs that EA is just letting collect dust right now. Dead Space.
Yes, great point.
I mean, they finally brought back Command and Conquer, and they made it a damn mobile game. It's just like they don't really like it. They understand the business side of it is that this IP is worth money. Now, like if you want this IP, I mean, like Microsoft has done it before. They bought Gears of War from Epic. They made sure to get Halo from Bungie before they let Bungie walk. So they've done it before, but man, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, like these IPs are so. I can see something like maybe Jade Empire, like they could sell that off to Microsoft, and it'd be the original game came out on the Xbox One anyway. So
could
the
you
original
imagine?
Xbox.
You think they'll sell off Anthem or Mass Effect?
Say what?
You think they'll sell off Anthem or Mass Effect?
No one wants Anthem, so I think they're stuck with Anthem. But Mass Effect, more than from what we've heard, what Casey Hudson has insinuated is that they're already working on another Mass Effect game. So more than likely, EA is just going to keep it and try to actually make some money off of it than selling it off to someone else.
Kind of like how they tried to do with Dead Space, maybe.
Oh boy, I hope what
you already know they're going to try. Like that's how they usually work. If they can throw microtransactions in the mix, then they'll keep it. Like that's what they really tried with Dead Space 3 with the single the co-op mode plus the resource system.
Yeah.
So,
see, look, like Vincent Pella is now taking over DICE.
Yes,
a part of one
DICE
of the DICE
LA he's the head of.
So maybe this is just a stepping stone for him to get a little bit higher in the hierarchy in regards to leadership there. And because if he is, I think he would definitely run EA the way he ran Respawn. Whereas you let the creative people do what they need to do to make the best game they're trying to make. You don't tell them, hey, look, we have a great idea. We want Frostbite to be our version of Unreal. The difference is that Unreal is an engine that has been designed from ground up to be an engine that is licensed out to other developers, and they have actual whole teams with Epic that actually show people how to use Unreal and teach them and help them out so that the games come out looking the best way they can. Versus Frostbite, where if you read the Jason Schreier article, DICE could not be as helpful as they want. They're working on games too. They couldn't be as helpful to Bioware as they would have liked to be. And so Bioware has questions on you got stuff in this code. I don't know what this tool is supposed to do. Like this is not labeled correctly because DICE, it's an internal engine that everyone in DICE knew what that did, but no one in Bioware would, So it's just like that. Those kind of issues crop up, and EA had no infrastructure set up to allow them to get help. And so, this is it's an unfortunate situation, but I think someone like Vince would definitely be able to
Vince
see
being put
things
into a lead spot like that, I think is going to change a lot of opinions and a lot of ideologies at EA moving forward. And all we can hope for is that Bioware, who's been known for some of the greatest games in the history of gaming, gets back to what they do best. And that's telling an amazing stories, coming up with original characters and content that you care about, and worlds and stories that we want to learn more about, for sure. Real quick, let me just continue on with the panel. First of all, is Slow-Mo and Zemi, great stuff on this particular topic. Crispy Bomb, I want to go to you next on this because, obviously, the more talent that BioWare loses, the less likely we can expect great experiences unless some big changes come in the form of management decisions. And I think that Slow-Mo really hit the nail on the head by saying that and I think Zemi mentioned it as well, that Vince Zampella might have opened some eyes at EA in regards to how they need to, position the company moving forward. For you personally, are you excited to see BioWare's next game, which is probably going to be Dragon Age 4 and possibly a return to Mass Effect? But are you confident they could do what they are known for?
Well, I think, as far as Archetype, they definitely are nitpicking what, the people that are like, I can't do it anymore at, what is now BioWare. But I feel like Archetype is definitely set up to become something special. In general, I want to just go back. I really was going to bring that up. Like Vince Zampella, he's being groomed to at least take over. I don't know if they necessarily have him take over everything. Like, I think the sports games are going to be what they're going to be, but definitely, with the Jedi Fallen Order, you definitely have a special game. And that is definitely because EA wasn't allowed to mess with Respawn. I think Vince just put his foot down and said, look, we're going to do it our way, and we're going to use Unreal Engine. And if not, then you're not going to get the game the way it should be and on time. And, I think that just went across the whole board, and they said, look, we got to put this guy other places. And, what better place than DICE, where they're trying to make Frostbite, be used for everything. I mean, you could look at Xbox Game Studios, for example. They don't, they're not saying, they spent how much, $500 million on Slipspace.
Mm-hmm.
Have they said anything but Halo's being used for it right now? Nope. Because, if those devs don't want to use that engine, they're not going to make them. Because, It comes down to creative genius and saying, okay, we are used to something. Let's continue to use it. How long has Gears of War been made in Unreal? Forever, right?
Since the beginning, I think.
And it still looks amazing. I mean, you go play it on a 4K TV, Gears 5 looks absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? So what works. Okay. So the problem I have is that you go and look at a game like Anthem and you say the hype around Anthem was incredible. Okay. And the worst thing they did was not give them the time and not give them the ability to do what they really wanted to do. And most of us have read the article. I mean, it was pretty sad state that, BioWare was in making this game. Okay. And they should have gave them more time. And if they released that game correctly, I think it would be a juggernaut right now, because, you could tell that the nuances of BioWare was there with some of the story arcs and everything else, but then it just didn't feel right. And the loading times and everything else. And then by the time you're said and done, you're like, this game's taxing. Like I played the demo and I'm like, I can't do this. There's just too much waiting and too much of this and that. And I'm like, this is not what I'm used to, and I think, I'm hoping that, with a few little leadership changes that they've done, and they start getting somebody else in their ear, they start looking at not the analytics, but the creative genius of the artists, because these games are artistic. It takes a lot of time. A lot of people go through a lot of schooling and really have to invest their lives in these games. And if you're going to take that away from them, then you're going to take away everything that we know about gaming.
No, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, what you're saying makes a lot of point, and we all want to see BioWare succeed. We all want to see them return to greatness. And I think that what you said about Vince possibly, I mean, again, he's not going to take over everything, but he is certainly has a big mind and a big opinion on how things are going to get done. And, you obviously cannot argue with success. Star Wars: The Jedi Fallen Order is a massive hit for EA. It's a massive hit for Star Wars fans, and it's what we expect them to do moving forward. And having his voice as the lead developer's voice of reason for EA, we could see a change once again in ideology. But BitCloud, I want to get to you next to close out this particular topic. Obviously, in the last couple of years, there have been a few games from BioWare that some people enjoyed and some people loathed. There's no doubt about it. And obviously, Mass Effect is a big IP. A lot of people want to see the return to greatness that we experienced with the Mass Effect trilogy. Obviously, they're currently hard at work at restructuring everything and anything that's a part of Anthem. It's going to be rebooted and relaunched, so to speak. So I'm excited to see where they go with that. For you personally, are you interested and or excited to see what Archetype is going to do with the potential of a spiritual successor to Mass Effect? But more importantly, do you have confidence that we can see BioWare turn it around?
Well, honestly, after seeing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and how that game was created and whatnot, I can see better things in the future, right?
Okay.
I've been looking at BioWare pretty much with a different look, especially after E3. Remember when we first saw Anthem, we all thought Anthem was going to be like this massive thing. Remember, I thought the slow-mo, but I was like, this is going to be like, lit, right? When we first saw it. And of course, Anthem ended up being another Watchdog situation.
Right.
It didn't even launch, or it didn't even look the way it was.
That's true. That's true.
Plus,
and that's crazy. You remember that trailer they showed us at E3?
Yes. The suits look more cool. It looked more epic as you launched into the suit. Because remember, it was all dynamic. It wasn't a cutscene anymore. It was dynamic. As you get in the suit, it launches off the pad.
It was that was a bigger bait and switch than what Ubisoft has done to us. Yeah.
Remember, the launch pads and whatnot weren't in facilities like near markets. We were actually out there on the field, like on ships. And then they launched you off the ship. Remember that whole scenery changed. It was all like in the engine, like running, or not engine, but it was all gameplay running. So they changed the entire scene. The water physics, the water still looks good, but I can tell you it doesn't look as good as
it's not the same though.
Yeah, it wasn't as glistening and lifelike as it was when we first saw it. Just like the suits look more shiny and more metallic looking when we first saw them, right? They don't look the same in Anthem now. Enemies didn't disappear on us like they did now, like in the game. Like the game looks so dynamic, basically what I'm saying. And so, for us to go from that to what we have now, it's like it's hard to really get behind anything BioWare does. Now, I'm not really a big Mass Effect fan. I never got into the series, but I do know, like, I hear about it every Friday, basically, because Craig talks about it 24/7. Craig cares, but he talks about Mass Effect all the time. And again, nothing against anybody who likes Mass Effect. If you like that, that's your game. I never really played it, so I can't really have a crazy opinion on it because I never really, played it. It probably is amazing or whatnot, and I never experienced it. But I do believe in second chances, right? I do believe any company can turn around. I mean, God forbid, look at Capcom, right? Any company can turn something around.
Yes, a great point. That's a really good point.
Any company can turn it around if they're given the proper motivation and the proper budget and, of course, the proper respect when it comes to time. So I do believe if this is the new direction and they're actually going to deliver on every front with their games coming forward, then Anthem 2, if they're actually going to redo Anthem or they're going to rename it Anthem for PS5 Series X, I expect that to be much more ambiguous and much better than what we've gotten now, for sure.
Yeah, real quick, before we move on to the next topic, Enrique from the Basement Radio Arcade Podcast drops a $2 super chat, and he says this, question for the panel, best BioWare game. For me personally, it's Mass Effect 2, without a doubt. What about you, Crispy Bomb? Best BioWare game for you?
I would have to agree with you.
Okay, so Mass Effect 2 for you. Zemi Games, what is your answer? What best BioWare game ever?
Man, that's not fair, but honestly, oh my God. Dragon Age Origins.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
All right. So slow mo. Let's go to
No.
you. Best Bioware game ever.
Okay, best ever. It's so. I'm gonna say it's a three-way tie between Mass Effect.
No, you can't do that.
I'm sorry.
No.
Look, I can't just choose one. Like, look, okay. In my top 5 games ever are Mass Effect 2, Dragon Age Origins, and Knights of the Old Republic. So for
Strong
me,
titles.
it's like
How do
any
you
given
pick,
day.
How do you pick one favorite son?
Right. Any given day, it could be Origins, that's my favorite, or it could be KOTOR. It's just like, all 3 of them are epic games with like amazing stories. Like Knights of the Old Republic, they need to do a remake on that.
They absolutely do.
They need to get with Disney and be like, look, cut the crap, make it canon again. Let us remake this, because it's just the story is
Well, Revan actually is
second to none.
canon. Revan has been officially added to the canon of Star Wars. So
Oh,
he
cool.
exists
But
within-
maybe there was that talk that a remake might be in the cards, but it may not be being done by Bioware because they may not have the bandwidth to do it.
Yes, that's correct.
Considering all the other stuff they're working on. But if it's canon now, then yeah, let's make it happen, because the one drawback to playing KOTOR now is that visually is a bit
It's not
rough.
good. It's
yeah,
not good.
I mean, your 2 options of playing it is backwards compatible on Xbox One or playing it on PC. And even there are mods for like texture packs on PC, and it's still like it's just like this isn't good enough. And then like you got the view, the screen view where you got the like black borders on both sides of your screen on Xbox. It needs some love.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. BitCloud Gaming, what is your personal favorite BioWare game?
Honestly, I can't comment. Never played their games like
Okay,
that.
all right.
But,
Listen, that's
all good. They sound good.
All right, no, that's perfect. Okay, well, listen, this has been a great topic. Great, thank you for the $2 super chat, Enrique. But thank you for the awesome question. I have to thank Smuzz246. He drops a $5 super chat and says, "I want to support my favorite gaming show." Well, thank you for that. Really appreciate the compliment and the people that make it happen. I may not always make it live, but I never miss a show. Well, thank you for the constant support. Just super, super appreciate that. But I want to move on to the next topic, and I think it's a good one, and one that I'm very happy to discuss. Obviously, and as it's been reported, Spider-Man is currently a top priority for Insomniac as well as Sony for the PlayStation 5. And in a story that I pulled from the website inverse.com, Sony has already had some of the, I certainly can say this and attest to this generation's biggest exclusives on the PlayStation 4 with games like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, one of my personal favorites, and The Last of Us, with the HD remaster that launched early in the PlayStation 4 lifespan. But with the purchase of Insomniac Games in late 2019, Sony has officially brought Marvel's Spider-Man into the fold permanently, and based on the staggering amount of money that the company paid for it, we will probably get a new Spider-Man title every 2 to 3 years. And quite frankly, I am perfectly okay with that. I tweeted about this early in the week. I finally platinumed Spider-Man, and I'm very happy to say that. I put a ton of time into that game, 70 plus hours, loved every second of it, and cannot wait to see what Insomniac does with Spider-Man, obviously 2, or whatever they're going to call it. But in August of 2019, Sony Interactive Entertainment acquired Insomniac Games, a story developer known for franchises like Spyro the Dragon, Ratchet and Clank, and the wildly successful PS4 exclusive that we're talking about, Marvel's Spider-Man. And though the filing was made through the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission on Monday of last month. It was a couple of in 2019. I don't recall the exact date. Sony has disclosed that they paid a whopping $229 million for Insomniac Games, and confirmed that it will be a wholly owned first-party studio for Sony. And that happened by the end of 2019. Now, this is obviously a massive amount of money for a gaming publisher to spend on a single developer, but it speaks volume as to how important Insomniac Games has become to Sony, namely because of the outstanding success of Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4, which as of this show has crossed into the 15 million copies sold worldwide. Now, as we talk Spider-Man 2 for what will be more likely a PS5 exclusive, we have to talk about how big the game will ultimately be, and if any of the other Marvel characters from the MCU will be in the game. Now, sure, Spider-Man is a hero that has one of the biggest rogue galleries outside of Batman, and certainly can hold his own in his own title. But there are some really, one of the biggest complaints with Spider-Man was some of the smaller side quests and missions. And again, ultimately, there were a lot of people out there that complained that the chasing down the pigeons or looking for webbed backpacks and a ton of other time challenges, they're claiming that they want Insomniac to be a little bit more forward thinking with the side quests, and if that includes bringing in smaller missions with other maybe second and third and maybe even fourth tier bad guys, instead of having to chase down pigeons or swing through green clouds of mist to collect samples, which was a bit annoying. But again, if you want the platinum, you have to do these things. I'm hoping that they do bring some changes, but I want to go to BitCloud first on this, because obviously you are a huge Spider-Man fan. I believe that you've platinumed it as well as I did. For you, what's that?
Yeah, that and the DLC.
Oh, yes, excellent. Well, my question to you very simply is this. Obviously, Insomniac Games is one hell of a talented studio, and I think it's safe to assume, without sounding like a boob, that they're working on Spider-Man 2 right now. I would be very surprised if they don't already have the story written and they're hard at work at designing the game. It is probably going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and it is slated for a release of holiday 2021, which is a bit of, quite a bit of years away. For you personally, what do you want to see Insomniac Games bring to the table with the follow-up to one of PlayStation's biggest selling titles?
Oh man, I think we talked about this with Keen David, right? The possibilities, because there were so many setups that they did with the first one. Obviously, Doc Ock. Spoiler alert: for no shit, didn't beat the game. We got Doc Ock. Electro is still a thing. He's not done, so that's still a thing. Vulture, I'm a little 50-50 on, because remember he had the issue with his spine, so that was what's going on with him. Let's see who else is in here. Mr. Negative could definitely make a comeback eventually. I don't think he'll come back immediately for part 2, but the big standouts from the first one obviously was the Green Goblin references with the pumpkin grenades and helmets.
Yep.
And of course, the epic reveal for Venom at the very, very end with Harry Osborn. So I am definitely hyped for that, because that is going to be one of the biggest highlights. And also, you're adding the fact that you're not going to more than likely play as just one Spider-Man. You're going to be playing as two Spider-Men from two different perspectives. So I can see Miles being a very intricate part.
I hope so
too. Because remember, at the end, well, I don't know if you beat the DLC yet.
I did. I beat it all. Yeah.
Okay, so you saw the training session.
Yes, I certainly did. Got me excited.
And so, Miles is pretty much going forward. I'm not sure how big the year gap is going to be, right? Going straight into part 2. But, Miles is going to be more confident with his abilities, and more than likely is going to be taking down bad guys with you. And I can probably see them incorporating tag team takedowns, kind of like
that would be dope. Yeah,
that would be so great.
Yeah, I can see them doing that, because remember Arkham Knight, I think, introduced that, where you could do tag team.
Yes. When you teamed up with Robin, there was definitely a bunch of two hero attacks.
Yeah, so I can
also Miles is powers are different than Peter's. So I'm really hoping that like he fights differently as well. So because like he has
to be faster because he's younger. I can see that definitely being more of a thing. Like him being more agile and more faster. Plus his spider sense would have to be much more sensitive than Peter's, because Peter right now has already mastered it. He knows what is what, you know. Whereas Miles, he's just getting the hang of it. And usually, especially if you go back to the movies, if you want to stay in tune with movies, usually the spider sense is like super sensitive when you first get it, versus years of like experience to train yourself to actually use it properly. So I can see his being much more sensitive and him doing X amount of things. The question though, right? Who's going to get the Venom suit on him? Is it Miles or is it Peter?
I think it would be Peter. I think I can see it being
Peter, right? Because what does the Venom symbiote do? We know this in comics, right? The Venom symbiote amplifies characteristics of his host, but also learns abilities from the host. So, and one of the main things that it loves to push is aggression. And we know there's built up aggression within Peter, especially after the whole Doc Ock situation, plus the loss of
I
can see them pushing that. But also there's a flip side coin here if you go to Miles, because remember Miles lost his father and he was dealing with the loss of his father. So it can go either way. But
I can actually see Insomniac Games going the Miles route only because things are so different in their Spider-Man universe for the story that they wrote.
Like they're on a high note right now. Insomniac, like Insomniac just made history for themselves. Like they created a suit that has become canon.
Yeah,
they created become canon. That's how you know you did something right, when you create a prototype suit that a lot of people, when they first saw it, oh my god, that is sick. But I didn't think a lot of people would cling on to it as much as they did, because a lot of people, I was surprised, they even admitted it in polls, right? They were like, oh, I played with the game with the advanced suit more so than any other suit in the game. And I was like, wow, really? So, you know, there's that. So like they made history with
my favorite suit, believe it or not, in the whole game was the Noir one. I really I played almost the entire game.
Yeah, I love that in Shattered Dimensions. The stealth. I love that.
I really enjoyed that you could change the suit but keep some of the powers that the other suit had. The
you can change
the suits had.
Very,
like
very RPG like. In effect, where you can actually mix and match your powers along with your suits. It's very, very well done. Very well done. My favorite
suit will definitely have to be, I guess it's called the Octo suit, the black and gold
with the yellow spider,
yellow neon lights inside. I thought that was one of the coolest suits that he made, because it's like that's like the closest we're gonna get to like a Spider-Man symbiote suit in this particular game. But you know, I'm like, that looks so good.
that was a six. I like the one that was also black, but it wasn't like armor, but it had like the green highlights of the spider emblem.
The neon suit.
Yeah, that was my favorite one.
Nice.
They got so much to do with Spider-Man, and the possibilities are endless. Again, story mode wise, we know Kingpin is coming back for sure. So Kingpin's gonna want revenge, and I can see him hiring a certain hunter to come back for part 2.
Yes. You know what? Also, it's interesting because Spider-Man as a character and the MCU itself is on a high. I'm not sure if Big Cloud you heard, but Alan Horn was at a round table meeting with the heads of several places. I believe Amazon was there, Netflix was there, and of course, what the hell is his name from Sony? Alan Rothman, right? Yeah, Rothman was there as well. And they publicly made it known that as soon as this signing agreement, the two Spider-Man films that they agreed upon is done, they're going to re-up the contract again, and they're already talking Spider-Man 4 to be a part of the MCU. So if you're an MCU fan and you were concerned about Spider-Man leaving, they said it publicly that that's not going to happen. They're going to continue on with this shared agreement, but Spider-Man is going to be going back and forth between universes, and it's a good shot that both Morbius and Venom will be coming into the MCU in some way or form through the use of the multiverse of madness.
Yeah, I'm glad we're still getting the same picture, the same like vision, quote unquote, as
Yes.
opposed to it being like spin-off. Remember, that was like our biggest fear when we talked about it. It was like, we
Yes.
don't want this on no TV show. We want this the same thing that we've gotten build up to. Because remember, it's not the same when you throw somebody new in the fray and you go, oh, here's a spin-off of it. It's never the same. It never works. So the fact that he's still in the MCU is a plus for the new movies. But I'm definitely going to admit to you, though, I'm not as invested in the new MCU as I thought I was going to be, especially coming after Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, they have to. I mean, again, there was so much build up to Infinity Gauntlet that, you know, obviously they have to reinvigorate the fan base, and I think they're going to do that. I mean, all the information that just recently came out, and I don't want to get off too much off topic.
Maybe the Fantastic Four will fix it. Maybe.
No doubt about it. So, you know, Slow-Mo, I want to go to you next one, is because you obviously jumped in, and you can obviously tell that you not only are a Spider-Man fan, but more importantly, you are an Insomniac games fan. And again, what they did with this game is nothing short of momentous. And what they've proven is that they not only are a talented studio, but pretty much that they have mastered what it is to be Spider-Man. And the way that they designed the city and Peter and all of the characters that surround him all were believable and likable. And I'm very excited for Spider-Man 2. But for you, what are your takes on what they need to do to so-called up the ante for Spider-Man on what apparently is going to be the PlayStation 5?
Okay, the first thing I'm going to say they need to do is eliminate the weak spots of the first game. And I would say I think the DLC in a way was something like they split up one big expansion into like separate DLCs. If you look at it, like you couldn't just play the second one or the third one. You couldn't skip any of them because then you wouldn't understand what's going on because the stories just kind of blended in. Like you had to be able to do all of them. And it seemed like one really big story arc that was okay, but that could have been incorporated in the game, in my opinion, like the base game. I think if you're going to do DLC going forward, have it not be something that comes out like literally a month after the game launch, because there really isn't enough time to really flesh that out when you're trying to get the game gold. You're trying to, get all the polish on there, get all the bugs and all the glitches out. You don't really have enough time to really flesh out that DLC. So although I enjoyed it and I like the fact that they upped the difficulty a little bit, as Ryan can tell you, it was not as easy to take on some of those strongholds as it was in the first game.
Dude, I got my rear handed to me on several of them.
Yeah, they definitely
the troops, the cyber troops from Silver. Yeah.
It was a little bit more of a challenge, which I enjoyed because I thought the base game was too easy. But it is a game that's for everyone, and I'm not going to like begrudge them making it a little bit easier, especially for like the younger crowd that wanted to be Spider-Man and enjoy the game. I get it, but I think that was something they need to work on. They need to completely eliminate any Mary Jane missions. Like that Mary Jane missions need to go. Period.
Yeah. Like they were a little. They weren't terrible.
Variety. It just they were kind of variety.
You know what it is? The missions with Miles, where he's just Miles, and the missions with, of course, Mary Jane. What it seemed like for me as a player is that you have all this excitement and all of this freedom to be Spider-Man, and you're going anywhere you want, and you're tackling any mission in any order you want. And then when you hit these missions, it was like a snag in the rug.
Right.
It kind of bunched up the game like
it's very
10-part pilot.
Yeah, it was very jarring. Like you just did a mission where you're fighting all these people and you stop a boss or something, and then you're hiding.
Yeah.
now you're hiding behind
know what,
boxes and trying not to get trying not to knock a box down to get noticed. It's just like,
you know what I hope they do? I hope they do keep the stealth missions, but like obviously remove Mary Jane and throw Peter in the mix, like in like certain situations where he doesn't have his suit and he has to do some casing or something like that, like some stealth, get around, do something like that. Like,
or even better with Miles with his powers, he has the ability to go invisible. So then like have him like
use that to like get him more combat ready type of thing, and then you're going into the story. Like that makes
this just popped into my head. What if they had like combination missions where both Peter and Miles are working together? So let's say like Miles would go invisible and infiltrate like a building, like the Kingpin's building, and he'll be like he'll be like deactivating alarms and things to allow Peter to get in further, and then you can switch the focus back and forth, and Peter will be fighting in one room and he'll switch back to Miles hitting someone with the venom strike and
the cuts.
I mean, the possibilities are endless. I would love that way more than Mary Jane hide behind boxes after Peter told her, "Don't go in there." Oh, I'm going in there anyway. Stuff. Peter, leave me alone. Stop trying to protect me. Okay, Peter, come save me. I'm like, you dumb. Oh.
Mission failed.
Come on, like, don't do that. And collecting pigeons. I mean,
one mission. Yeah, I get it. It was weird.
Yeah, the collecting pigeons, swinging through fart clouds.
Yeah, I get it though. They were adding variety, but it was like some was like a little weird. And then but I do like it though because like it gives you more context to Harry's mother. That was the cool part about it.
Yes, it does. That's something she wanted to do. Yeah,
which I thought was smart. But I'm trying to think. I really want Taskmaster to have more of a role instead of just being challenges. I want him to be more of a role. Like he is such a dope like boss, like to have in the game. And I would like to see Craven take the place of in that role when it comes to the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that more believable than Taskmaster having this stuff.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that they're going to up the ante for sure in regards to his rogue gallery, which is one of the best. I mean, the only rogues gallery that's as stout as Spider-Man's is obviously Batman. They're both on par.
Do you remember Azazel from Batman Arkham City? You remember when you first see Azazel, like he's on the buildings, and if you throw like a batarang, he'll catch it. Like you just sit there and wait. That's kind of how I would like for them to do with Taskmaster. Just have him randomly be in the world. And like randomly pop up, and you least expect them.
Yeah, that actually was cool.
That makes more sense to me personally.
That actually would be pretty cool. I mean, that's kind of a similar mechanic they have in the Division when you go into the underground. Like there are these other faction called the Hunters, and the Hunters hunt Division agents, and they will randomly attack. Like you could do one mission in the underground and not get attacked, and then out of nowhere, the very next mission you do, like you'll notice like all of your technology is messed up and not working correctly, and then these hunters will appear out of nowhere. It's really random, and it's awesome because you just never know when it's going to happen, and you always got to be on your P's and Q's. It'd be great if Taskmaster was doing that to the Peter or Miles in New York, where he's just randomly attacking you, and it's not a rhyme or reason to it. You could just be web swinging, and next thing you know, something has cut your web.
Right. Yeah, like
you're getting attacked.
Your web get cut, and then he'll come out of nowhere like, "Hey, you're on my list." Kind of like Deadshot, like you made my list. I gotta
right. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
No, listen, the possibilities are pretty much endless, and we know that Insomniac is going to knock it out of the park. Crispy Bomb, I want to go to you next on this because I actually don't know what your affiliation is for the Spider-Man character, more specifically Insomniac's original adventure and what they're going to do in part 2 for you. What do you want to see them do in Spider-Man 2? And did you play and enjoy Spider-Man 1?
Well, to be honest, I didn't play enough of Spider-Man. Like you guys are all giddy, and I'm like, I mean, and here's the thing. I've said it many times. I'm it's hard for me to sit and just grind through a game. That's why I brought up the example. I like Game Pass because I can just go back when I feel like it. I'm more like I'm like right now. I'm like all back into the Division, and like I said, I played it, but I go back to like I played enough Batman to like kind of be tired of that. Like they're similar in their own ways, you know what I mean? And you know, and I get like some of the things you guys are saying about, you know, like chasing pigeons and all that. Like I always go back to Arkham Knight and not being able to get the damn riddles. Like that just drove me nuts because they were such a
some of them are ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know, so you know, I get what you guys are saying. You know, the Spider-Man IP in general, you know, for Sony to lock down the gaming and movie aspect is pretty incredible. And I think, you know, having Insomniac continue it, you know, I look forward to, you know, down the road, you know, maybe I'll say, hey, I'll get back into that. You know, that's why I go and never count myself out on certain games. But it's just like one of those things, like people laugh at me that I've never played GTA 5. Well, when you played 4 of them before, sometimes you just get tired of it.
No,
You know
listen,
what I mean?
a lot. Sometimes the IPs they just get a little long in the tooth. Even though, because I mean, obviously there are different games, but is GTA 5 really that different from GTA 4? In essence, to some extent, with the 3 characters, yes. But is it still GTA? Yes. So I definitely see your point.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, and that's where I go and say I get tired of something, and then you know down the road, you know, I could go and say, oh, you know what, let me get into this again, you know, and that's where I don't try to tire myself out of certain genres. Like a lot of people don't know that I used to play a ton of RTSs back in the day. Command and Conquer was one of my favorite games. So like, you know, down the road, who knows? You know, right now nothing's really, you know, grabbed my attention, but you know, that's one thing about being a gamer that's been through all these generations. It's like you see similarities, maybe better graphics, stuff like that, you know, or different characters, but, you know, similarities and things. So you kind of turned off of it. Obviously, you know, I also have to fight my roommate to try to play anything on PlayStation 4 because, you know, I always choose like buying an Elite controller over just going and getting a PlayStation. So, you know, and that's a preference thing. That's like, I'm going to play my Xbox more. So, you know, when my Elite starts breaking down, I'm so used to that peripheral that I'm like, I need it now. Like it's kind of sucks now. I'm like, I kind of put myself in a bad situation even buying the first one. So, you know, that's basically all I could say about it. You know, a great, smart move, Insomniac, smart move keeping them on it. And, you know, I caution, you know, don't release it too quickly. Let's not have any.
Yeah, I mean, but well, by the time it releases in 2021, that's going to be a full 3 years from its you know its release in 2018. So you know, all 2019 we didn't have a new Spider-Man. All of this year we're not, and then obviously most of 2021 but they'll probably release this in November. This again, it's rumored to be holiday of 2021. So that's still going to be a 3-year stint between releases, and I think that at that point the PS5 will already be out for a year, and this will be a great flagship title to move consoles. But you know what? Closing out today's outstanding show, because we're getting close to the 2-hour mark. Zemi Games, I want to just say, I just want to get your opinion on this. You know, obviously with the success of Spider-Man, this puts Insomniac Games on par with the top tier Sony studios like Naughty Dog, which really they don't necessarily put out a bad game. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have tremendous confidence that the next Spider-Man is not only going to be bigger, I think it's going to be better. But for you personally, what are you looking for in the new and next Spider-Man 2? And what are your thoughts on Insomniac becoming a Sony first party?
Well, I mean, I guess to start off with, like, my thoughts on, you know, Sony getting Insomniac. I mean, it's an amazing move for Sony. It definitely makes a lot of sense, and it's going to make them a lot of money, and it's going to, you know, kind of ensure that the you know that the PlayStation community has something to be proud of, right? As far as, you know, what I'd like to see in the next Spider-Man, I have no idea. I haven't played the first one. So,
okay.
But I will say this is that, you know, whenever I was watching through like the MCU movies, Spider-Man was really one of the ones that I actually really kind of fell in love with, more than some of the other ones. I think like in Civil War, where he makes his very first appearance, I think it was that movie. Like I was just laughing left and right. Like it was amazing. I love that character. And it actually contributed strongly to me wanting to get a PS4 last year. However, I didn't do it because, like I'm cheap, and the new PS5 is supposed to be coming out this year, and I kind of already knew that was going to happen. So I've just kind of been putting it on the back burner, and it is going to be one of those first games I get whenever I get a PS5 later on this year is Spider-Man 1 to try to play through it. And I'm going to be honest, like half of the stuff you guys have said during this topic, I haven't heard because I've been like muting my mic and like turning it back up because I don't want to hear like these things, like, you know what I mean? I don't want any spoilers or anything. So I'm amazing move for Sony to get Insomniac. And I don't know what I expect for Spider-Man 2, but I'm super excited to play the first one.
All right. Well, I mean, that's a great point. And listen, that's a fantastic way to close out today's outstanding show as we close in on 2 hours. Of course, the chat, we had almost 300 people watching today. And of course, that's a big deal. This show is still growing. And to have that many people this early in the morning on a Friday morning is really great. And it's greatly appreciated. And what I'd like to do is get into the outros. And of course, when you do these shows, we try to put these shows together. One of the biggest hurdles, I would say, is trying to find guests that not only want to be here, but have the time to be here, because some of my shows are midday and some of them are late night, and one particular to be in the morning. And I couldn't do the show without the fine folks that are on this panel. So we'll start off with one of our regulars. First of all, BitCloud, I want to thank you so much for being here. You bring a wealth of Sony knowledge to these shows, something that it was drastically missing. At least I've been accused of purposely setting the shows up to be completely Xbox biased, which is ridiculous when I talk about Sony the way I do. But having you on is definitely a plus. And you yourself have an outstanding show on Friday afternoons. Why don't you tell everyone where they can watch that and check you out on social media?
Yeah, well, like always, appreciate the invite. Thanks so much for the opportunity. It's always awesome to come here and talk gaming with you and everybody. So, like always, but 5 p.m. Eastern Time, RGT Podcast, episode 102. It's going to be live on the channel.
Nice.
Go over that, and yeah, have some good time. And for those of you who are interested in following me, it's BitCloud Gaming on Twitter as well as YouTube. So, yeah, without further ado, though, I'm definitely going to close it out. Appreciate it. And see you guys next week.
Yeah, well, thank you again for being here. And of course, someone that I absolutely really look forward to working with. He hasn't had a chance. We just couldn't get our schedules to match. But finally, he was able to work it out where he was on the show, not only from the beginning, but all the way to the end. My very good friend, Slow Mo Backslap, who has an incredible voice, an incredible opinion, and quite frankly, is one of the most stable-minded gamers that I personally know. If you're not subscribed to his outstanding YouTube channel, you need to do that ASAP. Slow-Mo, do me a favor, tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, listen to you on other podcasts, and also check out your work on YouTube.
Man, stable-minded. I need to have you talk to my wife and let her know that if people believe that I am actually a sane individual. No, I'm just kidding. Like I appreciate the invite, man. It's been a while since I've been able to do breakfast with them. Work. I'm usually at work, and every now and then when I'm able to work from home, as I am right now, somewhat, at least as far as my company is concerned. I am working right now. I love to be on every single time. It's always a good time. I love talking with having great conversations about these topics, about games, about just whatever's going on in the industry with gamers. And I'm always familiar with that fraud BitCloud, so it's always a good time to chop it up with you guys.
Fraud, and that's Slow Mo Backslap.
My YouTube channel is same name, Slow Mo Backslap, and I just basically focus on games. Doesn't matter what the platform is. Sometimes I do a showcase about newer developers like Archetype Entertainment, like we discussed earlier. But typically, just all games, whatever the platform, anything I'm interested in that I think is awesome. I'm doing highlights of it, doing deep dives on the developers and their process and making the games. Just check it out if you like it. Subscribe if you want to. It's all good.
Well, listen, thanks again for being here. And before I actually don't forget, because I had it to do at the end of the show, before I get to the rest of the outros, the winner of the $25 Xbox Live gift card that was donated by Forkboy Gaming, who is a Patreon member and won the random drawing for February of 2020, is going to be a very good friend of mine. And again, folks, just so you know, I use the mini web tool after adding everyone's name, Z Black Rider. I'll be getting in touch with you after the show to put that code into a DM. Congratulations, Z Black Rider, on the winning the $25 gift card that was donated by, once again, Fork Boy Gaming. And of course, let's continue on with the outstanding panel. Of course, Crispy Bomb, I want to thank you so much for being here as always. We had set this up a couple of weeks ago. Truly appreciate you taking the time to be on the show, but also respect and enjoy your opinion on gaming. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media and check you out on any other shows you happen to be a part of.
Oh, well, thanks, Boom. I was glad it was actually a whole week before and we were ready to roll. So,
yes.
And the chat was awesome today. I love that, everybody comes out, so early in the morning. Some people it's really early. Some, it might be a little later, but it's just always awesome to see. You can find me on Twitter at Crispy Bomb. Follow me on Xbox Live. I'm always looking for friends. It's Crispy Bomb 28. I'm also on the next podcast tomorrow night, 7 p.m. and Retro Renegades Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Come check us out. Just, a little bit of gaming, always fun. We drink some beers and BS together.
Well, I mean, that's really what it's all about, right? Hashtag fun. We're supposed to be enjoying gaming, not fighting about plastic. And certainly, last and in no way least, I put up the bat signal. He answered, as always. Zemi Games, I want to thank you so much for bringing your incredible insight to Breakfast with Boom once again. And of course, your passion for Xbox shines through every episode you're on with the Xbox Factor Podcast weekly. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media. And more importantly, check out your growing and outstanding YouTube channel.
Well, thank you so much, Boom, and thank you for throwing me that invite this morning. I know that you're kind of in a tough patch, and I always try to help out wherever I can. And it's always a pleasure coming back to Breakfast with Boom and talking with all of you guys. If you guys want to check out my YouTube channel, it's called Zemi Games. I do a bunch of gaming tutorials, gaming news, gaming reviews, just a ton of gaming content. So if you like that type of thing, definitely make sure to check out my channel and subscribe if you like. You can also check me out on Twitter. It is at Zemi Games. I'm not the most active person, but I'm trying to get better at Twitter. But my DMs are always open. So, regardless of if you agree with one of my opinions on the podcast or disagree, I always love, interacting with community members, talking to people and stuff like that. So feel free to send me a DM if you ever want to talk games. And thank you so much for the invite, Boom.
Well, it's great to have you on once again, and love that what you bring to each show. And once again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time, nearly 300 folks, to come out here and watch today's show. And of course, I'm going to close it out like I always do with two very simple things that I grew up thanks to my pop. One, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. Remember that, folks. And two, most importantly, treat others how you want to be treated. And I can guarantee you're going to have one heck of an awesome day. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you next Friday morning on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom. Take care and have a fantastic weekend, everyone.